everyone. Thanks so much for joining us. We're going to let folks give them another minute or so to join. And as they're coming in, I'm going to go ahead and just launch a poll so we just know who's in the audience. You could just tell us a little bit about yourself. Are you an early childhood educator, elementary, secondary, student support, administrator, higher ed, parent, nonprofit member, or just curious and always learning? We'd love to hear from you who's in the audience. I'm super excited to have you back. It's been a minute since I've seen you all, so thank you. And I see some familiar names in the guest list, so thank you for that. We've got different states being represented as well, so that's awesome. So we'll leave that up for another minute as folks are joining us at 1 o'clock right now at the top of the hour, and we'll get started in just a few minutes. Just let us know who you are so we can get a sense of who's in the audience and why you're here. You're here for a very special guest today. I'm super excited, and we'll introduce Joe in just a moment more formally. But and if you've already registered for this, you're getting a free copy of his book as well. So you can just start off with gifts as we're getting ready to launch. So I'm going to go ahead and end the poll and let you know who you are in the audience. And there you are. So it looks like the majority of you, 50%, are administrators. And first of all, I just want to thank you for just being an educator in the space. For all of you that are welcome here today and signed up with us. All of our webinars are always free and open to anyone to join. And then I've got another one that I'd like to just go ahead and start as we're waiting for a few more guests to join us. And that is this one, which I really like as well. I think they're pretty fun. Let me see, I just want to make sure I get this up here. Let's see, here we go. Here's our next one. What was popular on the radio when you first started your career in education? Right? What was popular when you first started your career in education? You can read through all of them, not what you like, but what was popular when you started. And just gives you a sense of who's in the audience and what era we all are. Go ahead and let us know. Let's go back and forth. And I guess while you're waiting, if you can actually think of a song that you know from each one of these bands, that might actually help you pass the time a little bit as we are waiting for a few more guests to join us. Okay, got 15 more seconds to let me know when you started your career in education, what was popular on the radio. Okay, here we go. Let's check it out. Sharing the results, and it looks like kind of tied: Nirvana, Mariah Carey, and Britney Spears and Rihanna, and a little bit Beyonce and Taylor Swift. We've got some Beatles and Rolling Stones, a little Bob Marley and Queen, Madonna and Prince, and nobody from BTS and The Weeknd. So we have some pretty seasoned professionals in our audience. And as we're going through, and this is our last question before we start. Literally, I know there's a lot going on in the world right now. And I wanted just to check in with you today, as we normally do for any of our Peer Edge webinars, is just wanting to gauge how are you feeling today? Feeling right now in this moment. If you had to compare yourself to the weather, how are you feeling right now in this moment? We'll leave that up for about 45 more seconds, just to give us a gauge of how you're feeling. Sunshine, rainy, thundery, cloudy, or like a rainbow. I'll leave it up for just a little bit longer. How are you feeling right now? Okay. Let's take a look. All right. Hey, 50% sunshine, 6% rainy, 33% cloudy, and 11% rainbow. And we are just so glad and grateful that you are here with us today and sharing a little bit about how you are feeling in this moment. And I hope that after we get you started here today, that you will actually all be pumped up. I'm super excited to introduce a very special guest today. He is an incredible speaker, leader, just a genuinely a heart leader is how I like to describe him. He wrote a new book, Lead from Where You Are, and his name is Dr. Joe Sanfelippo. So Joe, if you can join us. Hi. And I know you're feeling sunny right now. You had to close the the shades there.
That's right. We are in sunny Florida right now. So it's not snowing. So you didn't have snow up there. I don't understand what the problem is. Like, I'm coming in this thing. How is snowing not on that list? That's how I lived 3/4 of my life. Snow.
Lots of it, I know. And I know because you have really far commute from your home to work every day.
A long minute.
A long minute, yes. For those of you who follow Joe on social media, if you don't, you should. It's a great little bits of wisdom every day, lots of joy. And the way Joe and I met was actually, we don't know each other very well. We actually only met each other one time.
Right.
And then we just sort of connected over social media. But I was at a state superintendent or state administrators conference in Rhode Island. Joe was there as well, and he was the keynote speaker. And when we were planning, they're like, "Oh yeah, Dr. Sanfelippo is going to be the keynote. Where do you think you might fit?" I said, "I've never heard of Dr. Sanfelippo, so you put me wherever you think is appropriate. But I'd love to just be at the beginning. I don't really want to be at the end. I know how that goes. Right? Everyone wants to get out of there." Right. So they put me in the beginning. Thank goodness, because I was all about take a breath. We're gonna just slow ourselves down, and we're gonna make sure that we activate our parasympathetic nervous system when we're stressed. And then Joe comes on, and it is like high energy. I'm like, oh my God, I'm laughing, I'm crying. It was so amazing. And I was so grateful for two things. One, that I was before you. And two, that I got a chance to listen and to learn from you. It was really quite wonderful, actually. And my heart was full that day. And Joe and I took a selfie. And then now he wrote another book because he's a famous author. Everyone in the audience, anyone who's actually registered, gets a free copy of his book. We just think it's so great. We'd love to gift you with that. So that will be coming in the mail if you registered for one. And with that, Joe, welcome. Thank you so much. And I know we've just a short little conversation before you get started, but how are you doing, and where in the world are you? I feel like it's a "where's Joe" thing.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it depends on the week. This is about a time. I'm Joe. I'm actually from Fall Creek, Wisconsin, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But right now I'm in Florida. It seems like Florida has been Fall Creek South right now, because everybody I talked to last week was going to Florida for a spring break, and I thought to myself, man, two things. I don't know if I need to run into kids on the beach at this point, looking like I do, like reflecting every ounce of sun. And the other thing is, I don't know if parents want to see me. I don't know if they want that. I don't know if they want to run into the superintendent just walking down the street in Fort Myers, Florida. I don't think they want that. I know I wouldn't want that. So I'm just kind of hanging out in a room right now, and we'll kind of go from there. But I'm so excited to be here. I'm honored to be here, and just trying to help out the best I can. We're having a really good year, and it's been really fun to see people really invest in the work that they do. I'm so proud of all of our people. Oh, today I'm on the plane. I was getting on a plane to go from right outside of, I was actually in Minneapolis. I fly out of Minneapolis to Fort Myers. And I'm sitting there, and a former student is there. And I'm like, "Hey, Belle, how you doing?" So we're talking a little bit, and she's coming here just to have some time for spring break. And I said, "So where are you sitting?" And she said, "Well, they didn't assign me a seat yet." So I said, "Well, why don't you take my seat? It's in a much better spot. I'll take your seat," thinking it's probably like halfway back. It's fine. It was like 28E. Like, I'm sitting here all the way down. I'm like doing this the whole time. She's up in first class, and I'm sitting here doing this the whole time. I'm thinking to myself, I love kids. 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 Right. But at least she's got a story now. So I talked to her a little bit after the flight. I said, "How'd it go?" She goes, "Oh, it was great. It was great. Thank you so much." And I'm so proud of her. She's doing incredible things in nursing. Like, it's, anytime we can get a chance to just celebrate these kids, let's give them a chance. If that means a nicer ride on an airplane, do it. Absolutely do it.
I feel like you're just modeling your narrative. I mean, that story could be in your book, and it would actually follow your framework, honestly, right?
I never thought about it. The next one I do. No more. We're done. We're good for a little bit.
Well, I think one of the things that you and I talked about when we first met was, we've got this sort of ability as leaders to set the tone in whatever way that is, right? And you've got high energy, the presentation was all, and then at the moment where like, but is it okay to actually show a different side of you as a leader as well, right? What is that sort of balance? And I'd love for you to
Yeah.
just share that, because in your presentations, you are, just because you're in front of, a lot of people all the time. But how do you balance that energy, that level of sort of commitment to your why, to how you function as a human being, I should say? I don't know if that's the right question. I just want to
It's a
gauge
great
that.
question. It's a great question because I think that there are times like, so one of the things that I do ask that I hope that people, when I go out and speak, I often, I'll have somebody in the audience that knows somebody from Fall Creek or, which is really interesting because we're talking about 835 kids in Northwest Wisconsin. We're like 120 staff members, but everywhere our people go now, they get noticed or recognized or whatever. And that's really fun. But they always ask, is he really like that? Is he really is he that high energy? Is that what this is all about? And every time I get the response, they're like, yeah, it's just, that's who he is. He runs really hot. And I run really hot, but I also make sure that when I come down from that I know and understand that there's got to be some balance in terms of the work. There's always got to be some balance in terms of, who I care about the most and I come home to every night. So I think that's a really big deal in terms of what we're doing and how we're doing. And one of the things that we talk about in the book that I really try to model and understand is this whole mentality, or this whole, the momentum that we can build with every interaction. And if I can stay consistent in the interactions, there's a better chance for those interactions to be talked about moving forward. Having said that, one of the things that's important is I think we do need to be vulnerable about the work too, because you can't just be high energy. About a year and a half ago, when we were just, everything was locked down and people are just stressed to the hilt. And I got on and did a video for my staff. And I just said, hey, I am so proud of you. You're doing incredible work. Thank you so much for all this. Kids are better because you're here. You're wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. We're really excited about how we can kind of transition to something else. We're just really excited about it. And I got a call from a staff member about 20 minutes later. And he's a guy that I trust. He's such a great guy. He's such an incredible teacher. And he just said, Joe, that's not what we need. We're hurting. We're hurting like bad. And we need you to say that it's okay to hurt. And I'm like, well, I said, I'm never going to stop cheering for you. Okay. But if we need to do it in a way that fits where you're at, then we're going to do that. And I can't thank you enough for being willing to say something, because if I hadn't heard it from him, I wouldn't have gone back on. I did another video after, and I just said, I was sorry. I'm so sorry. I did not think about, high energy, social media Joe guy. Let's shout about the great things. And you're sitting there going, how am I going to get my lessons done for tomorrow? And that's a total oversight on my part, because I was just trying to pump you up and make us go in the right direction. So I think if you have people that allow you to have that balance and actually, cheer for you, but also, tell you like, don't be dumb. Let's kind of pull back and figure out what's really going on here. If you're going to lead the way that, that we need you to lead. And I think that makes a huge difference.
Yeah. And thank you for that. I feel like there's this moment where, just seeing everyone's human side kind of makes us connected a little bit closer. And I think everything that, you bring to work is really wrapped around, building up relationships. And I think when you're, 3 mantras with the intention, connection, and direction, and really being able to figure out how you live like that as a human being, but how you live like that as a leader and as an educator. And so with that, I'm going to let the audience sort of enjoy the ride. And if you have questions, just notice the chat box is disabled, but the Q&A is open. So if you have Q&A, just go ahead and use that for folks, but the chat box is disabled just so you can focus on the ride and the joy that Go Crickets is going to bring for us. So Joe, take it away.
All right. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. So if you want to just either shoot me a text or just make sure that everybody can see and hear okay as we move forward. So you should have one screen up right now, and I think everything should be ready to go. If anybody needs any contact information, if you just want to scan that QR code, you can get to me relatively easily. I'll have it up at the end too, if anybody wants anything from me. You'll have my phone number when you walk out of here, email. all that stuff. I think one of the things I do these little walk to work videos, and at the end of all these walk to work videos, I always say we're all in this thing together. And the thing about that is you can't just be all in this thing together when it's convenient to be all in this thing together, man. If you need something, call me, and hopefully we can get ourselves going in the right direction, because when it comes down to it, we're all doing incredible work for kids. The question becomes, how do we make sure that we help other people in that, build momentum so we don't feel like we're doing it alone? And that's kind of where this came from. That's where this whole lead from where you are came from, in the idea that all those little walk to work videos that I used to do, or I continue to do, I only do them when I have ideas. I don't try to get one done every week. I just want to make sure that they're authentic and they're coming from the right place. But all of this is just a deeper dive into what those look like. And I think one of the things that we really want to think about when we move forward in terms of what this work looks like is thinking about what the connection, the intention, connection, and direction of the work that we do. Because during the course of the day, I think a lot of us feel like we're really discombobulated in terms of the work, because we're just trying to get to the next thing. And if we're always doing that, we don't feel connected in the work. So what we want to do as leaders is try to figure out a way to bring intention to the work, then connect that work, and then finally give it some direction moving forward. And I think that's been a really big deal for us. Hopefully we can take some of the ideas that we think about in the book and put them into practice, because they're all real practical things through intention, connection, and direction. And in doing that, I think we find ourselves in a different spot. So I'm just going to tell you a little bit about what we're doing in Fall Creek, Wisconsin. I don't know if you know where Fall Creek, Wisconsin is. We're the home of the Fall Creek. Wait for it. Wait for it. Wait for it. Crickets. People, that's the mascot right there. People, we are the mighty Crickets. We will annoy the heck out of you. Give us the opportunity. I think when you sign up for a national webinar like this, you're probably thinking the guy up in front is like some sort of famous person. Like, you're probably thinking I must be like some sort of like TED speaker, nationally renowned, like best-selling author or something like that. People, I've been on the cover of the Cricket Chirp. Like, this is what we're talking about. I would need you to understand the level of fame, because right now, today, the next 35 minutes together is like when the teacher brought the big old TV into your room and you were excited about it. You're so excited. It's a movie. I can't wait. I love movies. I love movies. Then you realize it's the puberty video and you don't want to be there anymore, man. Like, that's what I'm just trying to get you through. I'm just trying to get you through, because over the course of the last couple of years, we've just been trying to get people through. The last couple of years, the 21-22 year and the 2021 year were the weirdest years I've ever been in education. I like, the things that have happened over the course of the last couple of years make me nuts. At the same time, it makes me feel like I want to go back to the complaints that I used to get. Like, I want the complaints from like 10 years ago. Right? Because those ones, I know the answers to those. These are the things I don't know the answer to, right? And so I want the complaint from the mom like 10 years ago that called me screaming and yelling over the phone and yelling at me because her kid didn't get picked up by the school bus. And she screamed right in my ear, "You need to send that No Child Left Behind bus because my child got left behind." Or the mom that was like, the mom that called me like 4 years ago because her son just came home from football practice, and she was so mad. Oh, she was so mad. He walks in with his football jersey. He's so excited about it. He's got the jersey. He shows mom, and mom got so mad, called me right away. And she goes, "Joe, he brought his jersey home." And I'm like, "That's awesome. Fantastic." She goes, "Joe, you know what number it is?" I said, "No, I do not. You're going to have to tell me." And she said, "Joe, the number's 00. 00, Joe. 00. Is that what we're doing right now? 00. That's the number. That's what we're using. 00, Joe. What's next, Joe? 11s. I said, you mean 11? Like, those are the complaints that I want, right? Like, I know the answers to those. I mean, I can have good conversation with those, but we're not. These are not the things that we talk about. So I'm going to tell you about Fall Creek, Wisconsin, and I can tell you about Fall Creek, Wisconsin, or I can let my kids tell you about Fall Creek, Wisconsin. This is Braden Meyer. He's a 2015 alumnus of Fall Creek High School, and this is his take on Fall Creek, Wisconsin.
A small town, like 1,300 people, small. No stoplights, 3 bars, a place where everyone knows each other. 19 years of my life here. Same home, same school, a real life small town.
That's it. That's the whole thing. There it is. You saw the whole town, man. You saw the whole thing, and I'm not even joking. People, there are 3 bars, there are 2 gas stations, and there is 1 school. And the best thing about living in Fall Creek, Wisconsin is on Friday night, I know where everybody's going to be. Right? But the worst thing about living in Fall Creek, Wisconsin is on Friday night, I know where everybody's going to be. They're all going to be at a game and they're all going to be cheering on our kids, but they're all going to have an opinion on how we should run our school because they all went to school. And when you go to school, you know how to run a school, right? Well, especially if you had a 13-year internship at one, you know exactly how that place is supposed to run. And they talk about it and they talk about it and they talk about it like they know exactly what you do. They have no idea what you do. So when I moved into Fall Creek, Wisconsin, like, man, I moved into Fall Creek, Wisconsin. Okay, like I bought the house literally across the street from school in Fall Creek, Wisconsin, which has been a relatively good experience for the most part. There was the one time that my then 5th grader tied my 4-year-old to a tree. Teacher takes a picture from her classroom and sends it to me and says, how's your PBIS program working at home? I said, fine, she's not going anywhere. Here's the thing you need to understand about this picture. The boy on the right is the sweetest boy you'll ever meet in your life. The one on the left is not. She did something to get there. I can promise you that. I'm actually talking a little bit lower, a little softer today, just in case she hears me and runs in the door and starts yelling at me because I'm scared of her. Let's be clear about that, okay? And you'll understand that in a little bit. Right? But when I was living across the street from school, living in a small town, I knew very, very early I was going to have all these interactions with people. The thing about all these interactions that I had to understand is that every single one of them mattered because every single one of them had the opportunity to be the one that people talk about for the rest of their lives. And I want to be very, very clear about this statement. Like, I don't love it. I don't love that every single time that I talk to somebody that could be the one thing that they talk about for the rest of their lives. But I acknowledge that it's real. And if I acknowledge that it's real, it puts me in a different situation because I know and understand the behavior in which I walk into those conversations is a little bit different because I know and understand that that might be the one thing that they talk about for the rest of their lives. And I think we have to be really cognizant of what that looks like when we move forward, because now we have an opportunity to build momentum. Though at the same time, it's not awesome knowing and understanding that every time you're in a conversation, that might be the one thing that they talk about for the rest of their lives. Because we a lot of times, from my perspective, I just go and I go and I go and I do and I do and I do. And I never take a step back to realize the impact of go, 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 do, do, do. I don't know if you're a checklist person, but I'm a checklist person, right? So wait. Now there are 2 types of checklist people in the world. Okay. So there are checklist people that write stuff down on a list and check off as they go along. Okay. Then there's checklist people like me. I write stuff down on a list and I check it off as I go along. But if I do something that's not on the list, I'm going to write it on the list and check it off. I should get credit for that. I did it. Okay. But if you're always checklist guy and you're go, 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 do, 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 you never take a step to realize the impact of that checklist. So what can we do to put ourselves in a position to make sure that we can actually see and understand what that looks like? And I didn't realize that until a couple of years ago when the most beautiful woman in the world decided it was going to be her family summer to do this Griswold family vacation. I don't know if you've done this thing where you get in the car and you drive across the country with your family. I don't know if you've done it. It's the dumbest idea in the history of the world. Don't ever do it. If you haven't done it, don't ever do it. Don't do it. Okay. I'm just going to tell you right now, don't do it. You're welcome. If that's the only thing that you get from the webinar, you win. You win. Okay. So my wife decides that we're going to Yellowstone National Park. And I'm thinking to myself, that sounds like a fantastic idea. I get my phone out, dump in Yellowstone National Park, drops a little pin into where we're going. And I'm thinking to myself, this is great. Look at all that green. Here's what they don't tell you about the activity. It's not about where you're going to. It's about where you're coming from. Because when you put your location and it drops another pin, you're like, oh my God. Oh my God. Like even Google was like, dude, don't do it. Don't do it. Okay. This is not only a map of our trip from Fall Creek, Wisconsin to Yellowstone National Park. This is a map of the actual start and stop time of this little girl's voice on a trip to Yellowstone National Park. And everybody loves this picture because she's adorable. She's adorable in the picture because she's not talking. There's a distinct difference when she opens her mouth. I knew I was in trouble with Allie when she was in 2nd grade. She stole my computer and she started her own podcast.
My name is Ailey. Welcome to the Elster Show. And we're going to be talking about awesomeness because that's what I am. I'm awesome.
Yeah, so that's really cute when it's in 2nd grade. Super, super cute, isn't it? Great. Yeah. Not nearly as cute when it goes to 4th grade and calls a press conference.
I don't know if 4th grade is ready for me, but I'm coming. So buckle up. And I'm talking to you, Mr. Janky. You're in for a real treat.
You can't. Right? And that's what she's got. She's got all these stories, and all those stories are super cute until we got to, I don't know, maybe about bam, right there. And then I thought to myself, man, that is a long time for the Alistair show. I thought I always kind of equated to when she was really young. She'd give us these looks. She'd be like, oh, isn't she just the sweetest little thing you've ever seen in your entire? No. She is not. I don't know if you guys do you do school pictures at your place? Those are a blast at my house. Okay. Do you understand now, right? No idea where she gets it from at all, but seriously, it's a problem and it's not getting any better. Going and going. And she's got all these stories, and all of these stories are just good. They keep going. She's mad about everything. Where's my iPod? Where's my iPad? When are we going to stop? I'm hungry. I want something to eat. The brothers are looking at me funny. The brothers are breathing too heavy. Like everything in the world is bothering this child. And then all of a sudden we get, all of a sudden we get here. And she just stops. Right? For like 30 seconds. Okay. And she starts to talk again, but she doesn't start to talk about all the stuff that's bothering. She starts to talk about all the stuff that's out in front of her. Why does it look like that, Daddy? Take me there, Daddy. I want to see that, Daddy. Take me there. Why does it look like that? That was her moment of awe. That was the thing that stopped her in her tracks and made her think differently about the world that she lives in. And the thing we got to understand about these moments of awe is that they happen around us all the time if we're willing to understand that they happen around us all the time. Every hallway we walk down, every classroom we walk into, they're out there all the time. Schools don't look like this anymore. Well, they do now, but it doesn't count. It'll get better, I promise. Okay. They don't look like this. They don't look like this. They don't look like this, man. This is 1 week in Fall Creek, Wisconsin, and this is 1 week in any town, USA. These images are all from Fall Creek, Wisconsin. These images are happening in your school too. All of these things happening around us all the time. These kids interacting with kids, teachers interacting with teachers. That's a high school senior walking a 4-year-old to her 4-year-old kindergarten class. That happens in our school. You didn't know that happened in our school till right now. And I'm not telling you how to feel about it. Right? But you know it's real. And when you know it's real, you can make an accurate depiction of what happens in that space because you can see what's happening in that space. These moments have all happened around us all the time. Here's a 4-year-old kindergarten class in Fall Creek just watching a science experiment. Right? Like, check my man right here. Like, that's not a moment of awe for that kid right there. Right? Sometimes those moments of awe get to be just a little bit too much. There he goes. My man is gone. My favorite part of the video is my guy right here. He puts the goggles on like, baby, this thing just got real, right? This thing just got real. These things are happening around us all the time. But what happens is if we're always thinking about what's next and never take a step back, we start to feel like less of who we are because we don't have the immediate impact of the work that happens, right? You know, we don't live in a world where we get immediate gratification for this work at all. Think about it. How many times have you had a teacher have a kid come back and talk to you, run in your classroom or in your office and just say, I loved having you in school, like 15 years after it happened. And what you want to say is, man, you could have said something, right? You never knew because we never get in those spots where we get that immediate gratification. So we always wonder if we have value. And when we start wondering if we have value, we start talking like, and we stop being proud of the work that we do. And we start defending the work that we do. And there's a distinct difference between being proud of something and defending something, right? Because I can tell you what you're proud of right now. You go to your Photos app, I'll tell you exactly what you're proud of. Kid, pet, house, car, hunt, fish, cabin, boat, it's all on your phone. And you'll tell stories about that stuff all day, right? You'll tell stories about, I mean, you have people you haven't seen in a long time. People you haven't seen in a long time, they run into you and they see pictures of your kids. They're like, oh, they're getting so big. Look at how big they're getting. They're getting so big. And you walk away going, yep, that's all me right there. Right? Feed them, water them, see what happens, right? If you're feeling really good about walking out of that interaction. But if you're always defending the work to the same person, to the same group of people, you know you're going to walk out of that conversation feeling a little bit more intense, maybe even a little worse than when you walked in. So if you're always defending the work to the same person or the same group of people, right, and you know you're going to feel intense, at some point we start avoiding conversations with that person or that group of people. We walk down different hallways. We go out different doors. We wait a little longer on the call. We wait a little longer on the email. We just wait, because we don't understand we're going to walk out feeling worse or more intense than when we walked in. That's when people start talking like this. Just a teacher, just a principal, custodian, secretary, paraprofessional, cook, bus driver. I'm just. When you say this, when you say that you're just, when you say that you're only, you devalue all of your work. And not only do you devalue your work, but you give the person that you're talking to license to do exactly the same. Because one of the things that we really need to understand about this work is that nobody's going to change the way that they talk about us if we don't change the way that we talk about us. And if this is the only thing that we do, if the only thing that we do is change the way that we talk about the work that we do, we have a better chance for other people to change the way that they talk about the work that they do. And I would love to tell you that that's the reason I started doing this. I would love to tell you that. It would be a total lie, because when I got to Fall Creek, I was the 5th superintendent in 6 years. So if you're the 5th superintendent in 6 years, the advice you get is twofold. 1, good luck. 2, rent. That's it, man. Those are the 2 pieces of advice. People, this was my nameplate. Can we talk about the nameplate that they gave the new superintendent of schools in Fall Creek, Wisconsin? I want to dive really deep into this bad boy, because if you take a look really deep in this thing, you'll understand that we're talking about masking tape, people. We're talking about masking tape. They're just changing it out. Last year, my secretary, Teresa, came into my office. She's like, Joe, you've been here for 12 years. I can get you a new nameplate if you want. I said, not now. Don't jinx me now. Just replace the tape, right? This is the other reason I started telling the story of Fall Creek, Wisconsin. This is Riot. And my first day as a superintendent, I walked into Riot's 4-year-old kindergarten class. He looks up at me. He goes, what's your name? Where's your hair? My dad's better than you. He's got a big truck. So I expelled him. And I got to establish myself early, right? Okay. He had no idea what I did. So I walked into Riot's classroom like a month later, because I do these little video updates. And when I walked into his classroom, this is what I heard.
Good morning, everybody. How are you doing? It's good to see you. Are you excited today?
Yeah, why do you always have to come here?
So from who the heck are you to why you always in my space, boss, right? Like, it's graham cracker and pudding day, man. You got to bounce. Like, he had no idea what I did, but he was just like every other person in that community. And when they don't know what you do, they make up what you do. And when they make up what you do, it's based on what happened to them 25 years ago when they didn't get a second chicken sandwich at lunch. They got put against the wall at recess. They got a grade they didn't deserve, or the coach didn't play them. And these are the stories that keep going and going and going, because these are the stories that they'd still talk about. I think we got to be understanding about people's knowledge about what happens in schools. It's not real great, right? But at the same time, they're making up they're filling in all these gaps based on what they think they know. There's this perceived notion of what we do. And I think there's a lot of people in the world that think that we live on the left side of this success line, right? I really do, because they have some complaint about some teacher and they're like, well, if that person can do it, then I can do it. You know, either the person can do it, then anybody can do it. They won't sign up to sub, right? But they can still tell you about what they can do better. I mean, honestly, this is and after the last couple of years, I find myself in a situation where I want the left side. I want to give me 1 year of the left side of this diagram. And I feel better. I want to live in a world, honestly, where I can network with people, get a great idea, bring it back to school. Kids are going to cheer, superintendent's going to cheer, school board's going to cheer, and I'm going to win an award. Like, that's what I want, right? This isn't what happens. We network with people, we get a great idea, we bring it back, but then the staff groans. Then they see some value in it. Then they tell you they don't have any time. But there's a break coming up, and that's really awesome. And then coronavirus hits and it all goes to heck. Like, there you go, man. There's school right now. Here's what we need to understand. The thing we need to understand is that this is where all those long nights are. This is where all the early mornings are. This is where all the stuff that you don't want to do. That's where all that stuff lives, right in that mess. But that's where all the great stuff is too. And until we figure out a way to tease out the great things that happen in the mess is the only thing that we see. And if you come to school every day, regardless of role, if you come to school every day and the only thing that you see is the mess, you start wondering if the work that you do has any value. And I can tell you, I can make you a promise. I'll make you a promise right now. You can tell a story about your leadership, your school, your district, your community, your company, whatever. You can tell one every single day from now until the day that you retire, or you can tell none. Either way, you're going to be judged. You just are, because we live in a world where people judge. I'm not telling you that that's right. I'm not telling you that I like it, but it's real. It's real. We live in a world where people judge. And right now, everybody's at 11. Everybody's cranked up to 11, no matter what. Everybody just wants to make sure that they're heard. At the same time, they don't have any idea what they're talking about. Man, I was at Dallas Fort Worth the other day, and I got into the rental bus to go to get my rental car. And the rental bus driver is driving us along, and a woman behind me has the audacity to say, "Do you think you know where you're going? Are you sure you're going the right way?" It's like 2 PM, man. Even if this is this guy's first day on a job, it's 10 minutes there, it's 10 minutes back. It's 10 minutes there, it's 10 minutes back. Like, that's the whole thing. And you're going to tell me? You're going to ask that question? Please. But this is what we're at, man, because we live in a world where people judge. They judge everything. People look at this and they judge it. They say it's beautiful. They say it's destructive. They say whatever, but they only judge what they see. They only judge the wave. They don't judge the rock that it hits, the current underneath, land structure, none of that stuff. This is like when you go to a game and you see a coach yelling at a kid, then that's who the coach is, no matter what. They don't talk about the fact that the coach and the kid have had multiple conversations about where the kid is supposed to be at that particular time. They don't talk about the fact that the coach makes sure the kid gets breakfast in the morning. They don't talk about the fact that the coach makes sure the kid gets home at night, gets the homework help they need, none of that stuff. Coach yell at the kid. That's who the coach is. Happens to us all the time. And we all do it. We all do it. Okay. I'm going to show you a picture. You're free to take pictures of anything up here, but please don't take a picture of the next slide, please, because it's a picture of a kid in crisis. Okay. So I'm walking down the elementary school one day and I see this little girl. She's sitting at the kindergarten door. She's pounding on the kindergarten door with everything she's got, screaming, crying. She's as upset as any kid you will ever see. So anybody working with elementary kids, you know, in that moment, you get down to the level of the kid, right? So I get down to the level of the kid. I'm staring at her and I'm right here with her. I'm eye to eye with her. And I asked her one question. And this is the response that I got. Question was, which finger got slammed in the door? Did I get you? People out there going, oh, where did she learn that? What kind of family does she come from? Right? What if I would have said this? Walking down the elementary school one day, I see this little girl. She's sitting at the kindergarten door. It looked like the door just slammed and she's shaking her hand. I asked her which finger got slammed in the door and she did this. Now it's a cute story about a kid who doesn't know any better. But when people fill in the gaps based on what they think they know, they fill in the gaps based on their experience, and that's not what's happening in our space. And when I told our staff about that originally, I said, we build culture in 30 seconds. Every 30 seconds is an opportunity to build or kill culture. Every 30 seconds, every opportunity that you have to have a conversation with a kid or go talk to a parent or go next door to talk to a colleague. How many times do you go next door to a colleague and complain about a schedule change or complain about a kid or complain about a parent, or complain about a teacher or administrator versus how many times do you go next door to say, I just taught a really great lesson. My kids just got it. It was awesome. I loved it. I'm so proud of them. How often do we do that? We don't, because we're afraid of what the reaction is going to be, right? So what can we do to make sure that all these 30-second interactions change the conversation about what we do? And when I told our staff that originally, they're like, yeah, no, you can't do it. There's no chance that you can do it. And I'm like, yes, you can. I can prove it to you. And if I was there, if we were in person, I'd prove it to you too. Because normally what I do is I have everybody stand up and I have them stand face to face. And when I say go, I tell them to get 2 inches from each other's nose and stare into each other's eyes. And we try to do that for 30 seconds and nobody can do it, right? After even me saying that out loud, knowing that you're not going to have to do it, probably turned your stomach over about 9 times, right? But then I do tell them I want to do the next part of the activity. And I want you to do this too. Everybody get your phone out. Get your phone on. For some of you, that won't be a problem. You've been texting the whole time, okay? Like the guy from Wisconsin, super loud, super hard to understand, and he talks fast, okay? What I want you to do is find somebody in your contacts list that means something to you, somebody that's helped you get to this place in your life. And I want you to text them, tweet them, Instagram message them, Facebook. I don't care how you get a hold of these people, but get a hold of them and say thank you for something that they've done to help you get to this place in your life. And I'm going to give you 30 seconds to do it. And your 30 seconds starts now.
Hold on to me as we go, as we roll down this unfamiliar road. And although this wave is stringing us along, just know you're not alone.
All right, time.
Cause I'm gonna make it.
Okay, see how many people were able to get it done. I hope you were able to get it done in 30 seconds or less. Well, I was doing this activity a couple of years ago in I don't even remember. We were in Nashville, and we had this huge crowd, 700 people in the audience doing a thing. Get in the next part of the activity, and this woman out of nowhere just started laughing hysterically. And she's in the back of the room, out of nowhere, just started laughing. And I think people started looking around like, is she okay? So I asked her, I said, hey, are you all right? And she yells from the back of the room. She goes, I just got a text back from my husband. I said, that's beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. She screams from the back of this auditorium. She goes, yeah, he asked if I had been drinking. So if you get a text back in the next 10 minutes that says, hey, you okay? Is there something we need to talk about? Is all my stuff on the lawn? Like if you get that text back, we got to think about how often are we telling these people that you care about them? You know you care about them. How often are you telling them that you care about them? And I think that's the mentality that we took with our school is how do we put ourselves in the right mindset to recognize the greatness that's happening around us, the people who are helping us out? Do we acknowledge it to them? And then finally, do we extend the conversation to somebody that wasn't there? In our school, it looks like this. You're walking down a hallway, you see a second grade teacher doing great things. You walk into that second grade teacher's room to let them know that they're doing great things. So now you've been in the right mindset to recognize it. You've acknowledged it to that second grade teacher. So now you're in a good spot with two people. But when you do the third thing, when you extend a conversation to the eighth grade teacher down the hallway who has no idea what's going on in second grade, but the eighth grade teacher eventually goes down to the second grade teacher's room to tell the second grade teacher that they heard great things about them. And the reason that they do it is because at some point somebody did it for them. And it felt good. And we all want to live in a world where it feels good. So what can we do to make sure that we put ourselves in that mindset? For us, it was making sure that you start and end your day with joy. How are you making sure that you start your day with something that makes you smile, ending your day with something that makes you smile? And it's all about, I mean, here's the thing that we need to understand. Joy is a huge part of this. Joy is a huge part of this, but it's not the only part. The other part is important too. Starting and ending your day, because if you never start and end your day, you cycle, and then all of a sudden you put yourself in a position where you go home to the people that you care about the most, that love you the most, that give you the most latitude, and they get the least of you because they love you the most and give you the most latitude. So what can we do to build that up? For us, it's about how do you build a culture where everybody can share that and create a story that they can share. And culture always comes first, but everybody talks about how they want a great culture, and nobody talks about how to do it. Like, what are the logistics of what that looks like? For us, we asked. And our people told us that they want to feel valued for the work that they're doing. And I think it's a big deal. Well, if we can create value by making sure that we create a culture of storytellers where people are willing to tell the story, it changes the conversation. It also changes if we put the people making decisions for schools we put the storytellers in front of them, right? That's how we acknowledge that works. We put pictures of kids on our wall. We stand up before every board meeting and say, let's never forget why we make decisions in the school district. We start our meetings with kids all the time because we want to make sure that the people at that table know and understand why they're making decisions for the school district. That's Caden. Caden came up to me once as a third grader. He's like, Dr. Sanfelippo, I just got back from the visually impaired Olympics in Denver and I won these ribbons. You think I could come to the school board and talk about my ribbons? Yeah. Yep. No, 100 times. Yeah. Come on, buddy. Come on, do your whole thing. He comes in, does his whole thing. He gets really excited about it. And then this 9-year-old kid, right before he takes off, he says, I want to say one more thing. I want to say thank you to Mrs. Moore. She's my paraprofessional here. She helps me get around school. She just makes it a lot easier for me. So what do you think happens to Mrs. Moore in the spring when we start talking about the budget? Right? She's not a number anymore. She's a story, and the story wins every single time. The story always wins. Data does not drive a movement. I'm sorry, it just doesn't. The story connected to the data drives the movement because the story gives us an opportunity to connect to the emotion of the listener. And if you connect to the emotion of the listener, that's where the connection comes in terms of what this work really looks like. That's where the story helps you because it connects to the people that don't see you every day. And everybody's got one. Everybody's got a story. The question becomes, how do we make sure that people hear? And when I think about story, I always think about the fridge, right? When I was a kid, everything I did went on the fridge. I draw a circle on a piece of paper. My mom puts it on the fridge. All my sister's report cards go on the fridge. None of mine. We can talk about that during the Q&A if you want. It's fine. Like, I'm a doctor now. She's not, but whatever. Courtney, right? I mean, here's the thing. Here's the thing about the fridge. Now my mom's fridge looks like this, but my mom's fridge doesn't need to look like this because my mom's got this. And now my mom can annoy people all over the country with her phone. And she does a lot, right? Because we connected to the emotion. I can tell you that in Fall Creek, Wisconsin, during homecoming, we all play games and get together and talk about the great things that are happening, that kind of thing. It's a huge celebration during homecoming. Everybody's there, kindergarten kids, 12th grade kids, all in the gym, all playing games. It's fantastic. And I can tell you that, and you're probably thinking, man, that sounds like a really good idea, right? But what happens when I show you? When I show you, it's different. Because you might not know Matt and you might not know Sam, but you know somebody like Matt and you know somebody like Sam. And you probably know somebody like Matt who used to look like somebody like Sam. Now you know more about it. You want to make sure that you're invested in it because you're connected to the emotion of what that work really looks like. A couple of years ago, my wife and I were celebrating our 20th year anniversary, 20 years of wedded bliss. And in 20 years of wedded bliss, I have not taken this woman on vacation one time. Not once, alone. Always family. Always family. Everywhere we go, we've always got family with us. You saw at the beginning, right? The family trip, right? Never taken it alone. So let's be clear about one thing, man. Like, I'm a catch. Let's be clear about that, okay? So my wife and I decided for our 20th year anniversary, we're going to go to Hawaii, and she wanted to go to the USS Missouri because her grandpa served on the USS Missouri. And when she was a kid, she used to sit on his lap and hear stories about the USS Missouri. Her grandpa passed away 15 years ago. So clearly she hasn't heard those stories in a long time. And clearly we're going to the USS Missouri. We go there, we're standing in the artillery area where he was stationed. We're talking to the tour guide. Tour guide said, you know, if you go into the lower level of the ship, there's a wall, a huge wall of all the people who were on the ship during the time of the treaty signing. He said, but I've never found anybody that they know on that wall. So of course we go down there, and this is the exact moment right here. This is the exact moment that my wife found her grandpa's name on that list of thousands of names. And if you can just see the pride and the joy in her eyes in that moment, and people, she just saw a name. She just saw a name. But when she saw the name, she said, give me my phone. And I gave her her phone, and she FaceTimed her mom. And her mom got a chance to see her dad's name on a wall, dad she hasn't spoken to in 15 years. Then it was the aunts and the uncles. Everybody wanted to be there. Everybody wanted to be at that event, though nobody was at that event, right? I've been back to my in-laws' house 25 times since this day. There's not one day that this conversation doesn't come up. It's not about the facts that happen in school districts. It's about connecting the feelings to the facts that happen in school district. That's how we extend what this work really looks like. And we can talk about how you extend it. We share it through social media. We can share it through any social story, right? We're just dealing with a different group of families who are taking things on a little bit differently. Like when I was a kid, my mom used to tell me, never go to somebody's house when they're not home, and never get into the car of a stranger. Guess what? Last summer, we went to somebody's house that wasn't home and got into a car of a stranger. Like, that's what we did. You don't have to love that there are a billion hours spent watching YouTube videos daily. You just have to acknowledge that it's real, right? And if you can acknowledge that it's real, it changes the conversation about how you do things, because we're putting ourselves in a different situation. Did you know that in 2020, there were 1.4 trillion pictures taken? 1.4 trillion, okay? Half of them by my wife at Christmas, but that leaves a lot for you along the way. Right? That's 2.6 million pictures every single minute. That's a lot of pictures. It's made it easy for us to share these stories. And I showed you the success line after last year. Give me easy, right? Like if I work for the roads department, I'm this guy. I'm just going to tell you right now, I'm this guy. I would be this guy. Who does this? Right? I didn't think there was anything wrong with this. I get this text from my wife. I'm like, hey, honey, what's up? People, we all make decisions in our life. Sometimes they're not the best decisions, but here's what you need to understand. Here's what you need to understand. Sometimes you just need a win, right? Sometimes you just need a win. That's what it's all about. But we have changed. All of these stories become part of the handprint of who we are. And when I tell people about the handprint of your school, I always ask them, make sure to make it simple, unique, and repeatable. Because if it's simple, unique, and repeatable, then anybody can tell the story of their world. And I think that's a big deal in terms of what that work really looks like. This whole thing about Fall Creek, Wisconsin started because I found this little clicker in a village museum. And then all I did was find all we did was just make it a little bit more modern. And we found something and literally put it on everything, man. It's on everything. What do you need? What do you need? Well, you got shirts right here, right? You want some formal attire? I get you a bow tie. Like we got it all. We got this stuff. We got a Go Cricket store. You want Go Cricket's water? I'll get you Go Cricket's water. Some crazy people put it on their fence. Sometimes that fence lights up. That's mine. Stuff's all over the place, right? I mean, we got it all over. When you sign up to be a substitute teacher, you're going to get a t-shirt, because I'm never teaching kindergarten again ever in my life. When the governor shows up, he's going to get a t-shirt. We're going to talk about funding. We got Where in the World is Fall Creek Pride Board, where all you do is send us a picture of you and your Fall Creek stuff, and we'll put it on the board. The board got to be too big, so now there's this video board playing outside of our wall, outside of our office, with these pictures from people all over the country in their Fall Creek stuff, and they're cheering you on. And then you know that everything that you do goes beyond the four walls of your classroom. And I had no idea the impact of all these pictures until we went to model schools a couple years ago in Nashville. And this is the group that we took to model schools, and they're walking down the hallways of this conference with 5,000 people at this conference. And as they're walking down the hallways of this conference, they start to hear little whispers everywhere they go. That's the Fall Creek team. That's the Go Cricket team, man. That's the Fall Creek team, right? Everywhere they go. And then they showed up to their room to present at a national conference. And before they even got started, it looked like this. and they got to present their passion to a packed house. There's more teachers in that room than there are teachers in Fall Creek, Wisconsin. The second they got done, they got on their phone right away, started texting everybody they know at home, saying, "You're not going to believe what happened to us." Came back to the same presentation for the school board. School board said, "Was it worth your time?" One of my teachers looked at me, she looked at her team, she looked at the school board, and she said this. That's why I knew things changed. Because when we treat them like this, when they feel like this, they're going to perform like this. This is the thing that gives us the opportunity. And the last thing that I want to talk to you about is how do we make sure that we provide direction for the people that we serve? Because if we're in a situation where we can really constantly move them forward, we make sure that we create value in that spot. And one of the things that we talk about that's had the biggest impact is how do we make sure that in every interaction, they have an opportunity to know and understand that they're the center of our universe in that interaction. And what are we doing to step out of our role to go and help somebody else out? Like I got a chance to take over for a custodian a couple years ago. And when I took over for the custodian, we put out this video, and the video we did 4 things very intentionally in this 59-second video. I want to see if you can come up with all 4 things. Here we go. 59-second video, 4 things very intentionally. Here you go.
So I get a chance to take over for one of our amazing custodians, Shirley. So I just wanted to give a quick announcement to the Fall Creek staff and students. First and foremost, if you think that the hallways and bathrooms are gonna be as clean as normal, like just get past that. That's not happening. She's phenomenal at this work, me, not so much, okay? 2, if you have a schedule that tells you about when the bathroom in your area is gonna be clean, what you're gonna wanna do is crumple that thing up and throw it away, because I have no idea how long this is gonna take me, right? And I could be here till midnight. I could. And last and most importantly for me is that if you feel like you need to throw up, just don't. Because if I gotta clean it up, then I'm gonna throw up, and if I throw, it's not gonna be a good situation for anybody. So if you could, let's just not do that, all right? All right, Shirley, I got you today, all right? Have a great day, everybody, take care.
All right, so just to kind of keep us on point, I want to give out the 4 things, see if you got these 4 things. What were the 4 things that were very intentional? The first thing is that we value her work. She's phenomenal at this work. Me, not so much. The second thing is we got the Go Cricket stuff on, making sure that we know and people are going to see this. We want to make sure that we have that. The third thing is the only one that I want you to get right. Only one I want you to get right. What's her name? I hope you said Shirley, because that's one of my favorite parts of every presentation that I give, because there are tens of thousands of educators across the country that know the name of a custodian in Fall Creek, Wisconsin. Her work has value too. And the last thing is the cart, because people see that cart going down the hallway every day, but people don't see the person behind the cart going down the hallway. Shirley, when she was going fishing for the day, she came back the next day and she came in my office. She goes, "You're not going to believe what happened to me." And I said, "Shirley," I started apologizing for stuff. She said, "I was walking down the middle school hallway and you're not going to believe what the middle school kids did." And I said, "Shirley, I'm not here to explain middle school behavior. You're going to need to tell me." She said, "I'm walking down the middle school hallway and all the middle school kids, they backed up." And I straight laughed at her. I said, "Shirley, that's hysterical." She looked at me. She got real emotional real quick. She said, "Joe, I've been here for 25 years. They never backed up. They're always really nice. They never backed up." People see that cart going down the hallway every day, but they don't see the person behind the cart going down the hallway. And the most important thing will always be the person behind the cart going down the hallway. And if we create value for them, we create value for everybody.
So I get it,
because we're creating moments, and these are the moments that turn into movements. Like when you get hired in Fall Creek, Wisconsin, we treat it like you got drafted by a professional team. We got the press conference. It's awesome. This was 2010. It was awful. It took up all the bandwidth. Fast forward 2018, 16. 2016, we got the backdrop, microphone, call up the new high school principal. He answers a couple questions. We give him the question choice, so he sounds really smart. Take a picture with him and his family, put that picture on Facebook. And before this guy even steps foot into our school district, there's 9,000 views and 300 likes saying, "Welcome to Fall Creek, Wisconsin." We do the same thing with our teachers. We're giving these people tens of thousands of dollars a year, man. Throw them a $7 hat and a $10 t-shirt, so when they show up at the game 3 weeks before the school year starts, that they got something to wear and they feel like they're part of the program, right? We do it instead of me calling and saying, "Hey, I'd love to have you come and teach second grade." What if you let the committee that wants them to be hired, let them make the offer? There's Emily gets a job offer to teach special education. Here's Cassia. Cassia gets a job offer to teach 7th grade math. She says yes. She gets really excited about it. Toby's over on the right. As soon as she said yes, Toby texted me, because what everybody doesn't know is I'm outside with all the kids that are going to be in her classroom next year. They don't know she said yes. They walk into the room and then they offer her the job. Then you say to Cassia, "Cassia, I can delete this thing right now, or I can send this to your mom. You tell me what you want to do." 3 years ago, we had a candidate come into our office named Claire, and she said that her inspiration for teaching was Mrs. Peach. Second grade teacher, Mrs. Peach, was the reason she wanted to be a teacher. Mrs. Peach is the reason that she's here today. And when Clara gets a job and you make enough calls, maybe you can get a hold of Mrs. Peach. And on the day that this woman walks in and get her first teaching job ever, the reason she became a teacher is sitting in a room. And the reason that she became a teacher is the one that gets to offer the position. And it all comes full circle. These things happen around us all the time. If we're willing to know and understand that they happen around us all the time, each and every teacher in your organization has the opportunity to be the teacher that each and every one of these kids tells their own kid about at some point. You're not just a teacher or a principal or a custodian or a secretary, a paraprofessional, bus driver. You're not just a teacher. You're never just a teacher. And if you got to use that word, please make sure you put it in the right spot. You're not just a teacher. Maybe you're a teacher, just like Mrs. Schusted, who let me sit on her lap and cry for what seemed like hours in first grade when my grandma died. Or maybe you're a teacher, just like Mr. Pentek, who in seventh grade wouldn't let me give up on a CPR presentation. It was the first time I ever spoke in front of a group of people. Or maybe you're a teacher, just like Coach Nices, sat and shot free throws with me for 2 hours after practice one night because he knew I didn't want to go home alone because I just drove my dad to rehab the day before. That's who you are to these kids. That's who you are to these communities. And never, ever, ever think and understand that you're just a teacher or just an administrator. Because when we start thinking like that, you don't feel like you have the opportunity to do this. And every single one of you does. Thank you so much for having me. I truly appreciate the opportunity and I truly appreciate the work that you do. If there's ever anything that I can do for you at any time, I'm actually going to put this up real quick. If there's ever anything that I can do at any point in time, all you got to do is give me a call, take a picture of that, scan the QR code. If you have questions right now, I would love to answer them. But if there's something that I can do for you, again, all you got to do is reach out. And I know we can make sure that we send this out to everybody who registered as well, so they have it. So I just want to make sure that you understand, you don't have to do this alone. And a lot of times we feel like we're doing this alone. And when you feel like you're doing it alone, you never get a chance to move yourself forward because you're always thinking about something that you could have done, should have done, when you're really impacting everybody in terms of every interaction that you have. And that's what we want to talk about. Thank you so much for having me. I'll take any questions that you got, anything.
Well, and first of all, Joe, I want to just remind everyone in the audience, you do get a free copy of his new book, Lead from Where You Are. And they're all wrapped up, ready to go. They're going to get shipped out, and hopefully you'll get them in the next week or two. So first of all, I just want to thank you. I think what you bring to the work, your energy, but also really just your heart. I think everything that we try to do at Pure Edge is really wrapped around people's intentions and their good heart work. And I just want to thank you for that, at the stories and the narrative, right?
That's what we're trying every time we can.
Right. So I think, I don't know if there's any questions. I know Pat was saying that keep moving your positive energies. That's from Patricia. And I think just right, yeah. So I think, Tarsha, if you signed up, we'll actually get you a book. We can't email you the book, but we can actually send it to you. So if you want to register or just let getmoving.org, send us your address and we'll make sure you get that if you did not pre-register for a copy of Joe's book. I know we are right in 2 minutes. So if you have any questions at all, but I do know this, Joe, your stories, surely there's a story in here. When you get the book, I want everyone to remember there's a story of Colin. So make sure you know about Colin. That to me was my moment where yes, right. Every educator has some no way that didn't happen. And it did. So I want to just thank you for Shirley. Thank you for Colin. Thank you for you, Joe. And I know that you are with your family right now and sort of going in between just your time with them. You travel all over the country and we're so grateful that you do what you do. We're also really grateful for just the amount that you share and give. And I think we are hopeful that, as your kids start to go off, your own children start to go off to college and do those things, that I'm sure that ripple effect of your beautiful heart is going to show across.
Well, they're going to take my money with them. So that's they've already had that.
Yeah, we have 3 girls as well, so I understand where that's coming from. Anyways,
no problem asking for the money. I'll tell you that right now. Right. The little one's the worst. They work out.
Well, I think you can only blame yourself. So I just want you to know
true. That's also true.
let's just take that in.
Got me. And you're right, 100%. And I'd do it again. I would do it again. A heartbeat.
That's right. That's exactly right. So thank you everyone for joining us. Thank you, Joe. We're so excited to share your book. And like you said, we will send out your information on our post follow-up email as well. And
Absolutely.
enjoy your time, get some sunshine so you're not reflecting. I feel like that was your big
That was
piece,
my
right?
thing. That's right.
Yeah.
All right. Take
Okay,
care,
and
everybody.
sweet 16, right? We're gonna go.
That's right. That's right. Have
All
a good
right.
day. Go
Thank
Crickets.
you. Bye.